What's going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. And today I thought I would do a quick video on fixing your early 4.7 liter valve cover leaks. Now, if you weren't familiar with the earlier 4.7 liters, they did not have a plastic valve cover, but they had a magnesium valve cover, which sounds very cool and exotic, but over time, those magnesium valve covers have not held up well. This is a earlier WJ. This is a 2001, and I believe they had these magnesium valve covers from 99 to 2001. I need to double check next time. I'm under the hood of a 02 and up, but I think that is maybe when they went to the plastic valve covers, unless it was 04. But again, if you open your hood and you have a very aluminum metal looking valve cover, this is what we're talking about. So this is going to apply to Ram 1500s with the 4.7 liter, I guess Durangos, Grand Cherokees, all of that earlier 4.7 liter stuff. Now, we're going to get one of these magnesium valve covers off here shortly, but these things are basically eating themselves apart. The magnesium valve cover sitting on top of that aluminum head, that magnesium is just starting to erode. I don't know whether that's through electrolysis or what the issue is with the two dissimilar metals, but it is eating the magnesium valve covers and causing them to leak. But we will get this thing off, and I will show you there is also even a thickness of the gasket that is coming into play also. So I've replaced valve covers on or replaced valve cover gaskets on these magnesium ones, and I mean they last a few months and then they're back to dripping right down the cylinder heads, burning on the exhaust and doing all the things you don't want them to do. So the fix is putting later valve covers on. Now, what I typically like to find is third generation Grand Cherokee, so 05 through up 4.7 liter valve covers. There was a change in 08 with the newest 4.7 liter, so I haven't really confirmed that the 08 valve covers also will work, which they should, but I've just been playing it safe with 05 through 2007 plastic valve covers, swapping onto these early magnesium valve cover 4.7s, and then you've got a much better valve cover, a much better gasket surface, and it's just going to work a lot better. And these are a pain in the butt to take apart, so you don't want to have to be doing it every few months when your valve covers are pouring oil like this thing is. So I'm gonna just throw you guys on a quick time lapse here. We're gonna yank this valve cover off, and then we can actually look at the two and see kind of the main differences. All right, guys, so we've got both of the valve covers laying side by side now. So this magnesium valve cover is not all eaten into like I normally see them. Now, I wish I had a picture of some of the other ones. I've had a part where the surface where the gasket basically goes into, that edge is just crumbling and corroding away. This one is, like I said, not like that. But the big thing here is the size of the gasket. Yes, both of these gaskets are currently used. This still has the gasket on it from the salvage yard, but the gasket is just almost twice as wide of a surface that is laying on top of the valve covers versus the very narrow gasket on these early valve covers. So even if your valve cover is not crumbling apart like this one is not, you just are getting twice the gasket surface for the valve cover. So if you're going to keep your darn vehicle for any amount of time and you are tired of putting valve cover gaskets on them because they burn and are a mess, I don't know of any other fix other than just going to these later model valve covers. Again, I will zoom in here shortly and you can see the differences in the two gaskets. Okay guys, so here is our old 99 through at least 01 gasket, and you can see how narrow this darn thing is versus this happens to be off of an 07. You can see that it's like twice as wide of a surface to actually sit on the cylinder head. So you have to seal better when you've got more rubber laying there on the cylinder head. Now guys, last but not least, before you put your new valve cover gasket on your later model valve cover, you do need to make sure that all of the bolt locations are the same, if that makes sense. So on at least the Grand Cherokee application here, so you've got a couple of studded bolts. So instead of just normal bolts, you've got a couple that have really long studs, and those are typically to hold a wiring harness or to hold a clip or something that is needed. So if you go ahead and just throw the valve cover on and say you got a valve cover off of a Ram truck, it might be different depending on its bolt location. So before you go and throw the thing on and have to try and swap them around on vehicle, make sure you go around and make sure, okay, I've got a stud here, okay, you know, just match everything up before you just throw your new gasket and the valve cover on the thing, so you aren't wasting even more time taking things back apart. Now guys, last but not least, a little quick tip here as you are putting your new gasket in. I often will use something to help stick the gasket into the valve cover. Now on the passenger, or excuse me, on the driver's side, it's not normally that big of a deal because you can get pretty much a straight shot on it. When you are on that passenger side, at least in the Grand Cherokee, it is an absolute nightmare. You're working around hoses and heater hoses and all kinds of stuff that are in the way, and you're trying to slide that valve cover back. So when I am installing my new valve cover gasket, I will often either use a little bit of RTV, a little bit of super glue, something like that in the channel where that gasket goes. Now, yes, it's going to be a pain in the butt in the future to replace if it's stuck in there with super glue, but if you can't even get the thing on the vehicle without the gasket falling off, then what are your options? So that's what I'll often do, is do a few dots of super glue, definitely in the rear section as you are sliding those on, because you will just absolutely fight it and the gasket will get pulled off and it will be a mess. So if your application is a pain like the passenger side of a WJ, definitely use something to help stick or glue the gasket into the valve cover. And guys, there's your proof that a 05 and up valve cover gasket bolted onto our early 4.7 liters fit and work perfectly. I need to obviously throw everything back on this side and then move over to the bad side, at least on the WJ. So guys, a quicker video here, but I wanted to show you early Jeep Grand Cherokee, Dakota, Durango, Ram 1500, all of those guys with crappy magnesium valve covers, a hopefully decent solution or fix. You know, go to your local salvage yard, your pick and pull, and try to find, you know, 05 and up 4.7 liters in anything, and go ahead and snag those valve covers. And of course you will need valve cover gaskets for that same year that you're grabbing those valve covers for. But like we saw, you're gonna end up with almost twice the gasket surface smashed onto our cylinder heads, so that has to last exponentially longer than the very thin magnesium valve cover gaskets on these early ones. And like I said, this one wasn't a good example since the magnesium wasn't starting to corrode and crumble, but most of the ones I have seen are absolutely crumbling and falling apart. This one, like I said, was in good shape, but yours is probably not in as good of shape on the metal where that gasket actually sits into. So we're kind of killing two birds with one stone, getting rid of that weird magnesium valve cover, getting a nice modern or more modern plastic valve cover, getting a thicker gasket surface, and you're hopefully now not going to have leaky, burny oil every time you come to a stoplight in your 4.7 liter, and it will hopefully allow you not to have to replace the valve covers in a very short amount of time like you often do on some of these things. Now guys, the only other gasket you'll really need to do this job other than the valve cover gaskets is the gasket for the oil filler tube or neck assembly, depending on your year, but it's going to look like this little figure 8 snowman looking thing. On the passenger side, you will normally need to remove that to be able to get that valve cover to slide out. That gasket is always smashed and leaking also, so do not forget to get that gasket. A lot of the gasket kits that come with both valve cover gaskets will also come with that thing. So remember to get this thing if you are going to tear into yours and tackle this project on your own old, early, leaky 4.7 liter. And yeah, guys, I guess that is going to do it for today. I'm going to now work on the horrible bad side, since I can say, or I'm going to be saying, bad words on that side because it is absolutely a mess. So I guess I'm going to get to the bad side now on this thing so we can get another 4.7 liter a little bit drier out there running around on the road. And guys, as always, thanks for coming out into the garage with me. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.